to our trailer. You need this right now for the house they want you to check out. Rachel. On the right, and then there's a couple houses, big shed, new shed. Tennessee gas.
When they started.
And this
What kind of building was this?
this was a home.
It was a home, okay.
Charles Fisher Wells lived in it. And he was married to one of the descendants from this site.
And this is going to be, we are going to have, so they never would give him his. Some of the fascinating aspects in that aspect, and
kids involved, and just a spur of the moment thing. I said, "Hey guys, what's a rifle sound like?" Bang, hand sound. Boom.
41st, Pennsylvania.
He's over town.
We're recruited around this area.
The new police station.
Our commander, he's running around here somewhere.
He'll be back here.
And you guys camped here all night?
They camped here all night.
He teaches the.
I'm gonna try to put that in the photo.
You need to go and get our earmuffs. She was smiling.
Oh, they are.
all of us.
Yes. We just don't want to yeah, I can grab you another bayonet. In my box, grab my bayonet. Yep, I'm just bringing it to the edge. All right. We'll get the other guys.
What happened, Randy? You're back real early.
Imagine that, an inhumane bayonet.
Hello, I'm Captain Brian Cater at the absolutely gorgeous French Asylum here near Towanda, Pennsylvania, where we are having a most delightful and informative event this weekend on these absolutely spectacular grounds. If you are unfamiliar with the story and what French Asylum actually is, please do look it up. This has great 18th century value and was the summer home cottage getaway for the Queen Marie Antoinette of France. So please, if you've never heard of it, if you've got an interest, please look that up. The grounds are just beautiful, gorgeous out here, as I am sure you will continue to see from our outstanding photographer and filmographer, Dale Ketlock, here today. And we will hopefully have a great deal more to show you from this wonderful event in this wonderful part of Pennsylvania.
But you know what? He got it in the bowels.
Unfixed. Bayonet.
Close these ranks up.
So, you know what, he was at Skedaddle, and he was standing, you know, but he made it through the hills.
Well, and when you say that spine tingling word to me, never mind Gettysburg, never mind what Spotsylvania courthouse, that was horrible, and I have a personal tie to that because my fourth
big hole.
And not only will my division commander, Allegheny Johnson, will get captured there, they will also get the flag. And we use our colors. Flag, what they represented.
Everyone have caps? Company. John Arms.
Are they gonna shoot them cannons? When, now?
And that's good. That is some subjective because I would tend to say, during this period, there is no calculating of that. That is that when if you're like 16, like and whatever, they actually have what looks almost like an Indian. And story, I don't know precisely, I wasn't going to, but that's a lot of my stuff that takes the readers.
We had a couple of reproductions.
I didn't want my readers reading down in this book.
Yeah, that's
I wrote it.
speaking area and stuff. They got stuff you can walk
You a couple of guys and a lot of lesser known facts and et cetera. That's what I really tried to do.
Company.
These books was make it.
Come to the ready.
You don't feel like a spectator.
Company. Aim. Fire. Cover. Arms. Shoulder. Arms. Order. Arms. About. Face.
Near being
Best powder, or you're busy with these guys?
Forward. On. Complete. Halt. Order. Arms. In place. Grab.
No, that is actually, that is Eastern Theater. That is Eastern Theater.
Warm day. The 141st. And we have the
Second book
fourth
picks up
light
from the
artillery.
exact same from the very next page.
The
So I really thought
141st
when I
is going to be
wrote
doing
book two,
Manual
I
of
said,
Arms.
Gettysburg is going to be
It is to
that's going to be the epic scene, and you're starting right off with it.
Manual of Arms is
With
the
the
different
epic battle,
ways
so
to
to
carry
speak, whatever, and
the
more and more
weapons
research I did.
if we are marching.
But
Right now they
give
are
you an unfair quiz.
at in place. They can move. They can only go to shoulder arms.
Because again,
Because if we go to forward to march, I'd have to say trail. And that is just picking up the gun a little bit so they aren't bumping the stock on the ground. So company, shoulder, arms. This is the usual way that they would be marching. They would start off marching here, and then we can go from a bunch of different ways to carry the guns. Company, right shoulder shift, arms.
I'd like to get that because I haven't read Manat. I don't know much about Antietam.
But this way, at right shoulder shift, if we had to double
Yeah, I'd like to learn about
leveled
the other
that way.
stuff.
It's just easier to carry.
Manassas,
Company, shoulder, arms. Company, support, arms.
Bull Run. Oh, Bull Run was Manassas. Yeah. Yeah, there's even
This is support arms. This is for long duration marches. They're canteen straps, they're haversack straps, and hang onto it, and they can carry their gun like this for miles. Company, attention. Nope. Keep your left arm up, drop your right. Company, shoulder, arms. If we are passing by a parade stand with the general, and we, of course, are going to salute or honor the general, we would go to present arms. So, company, present arms. Support arms. So if the crowd was getting you guys were getting too rambunctious and trying to get to the cannons, I'd put them at port arms, and they would be able to just push you back somewhat easily as long as you guys weren't too forceful. Company, shoulder, arms. Order, arms. In place, rest. If they did it right, they should all go bang. Fire! Bang! I hear 3 reports. Shoulder, sorry, cover, arms. Shoulder, arms. In place, sorry, order, arms. In place, rest.
Hello, welcome to the most fire demonstration of the 4th U.S. Light Artillery. All of the guys you see from Bradford County, but we're a statewide organization of about 50 members.
Okay, so French Asylum was the brainchild of some people, investors in Philadelphia in the mid-1790s, early 1790s, and they decided they wanted to establish a trading post here along the Susquehanna. So they also married that idea with the fact that a lot of people who were fleeing the revolution in France were coming to Philadelphia. So they thought, well, let's have a little colony where these refugees can settle, and also we'll have a trading post along the Susquehanna in the same place. It'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as it were. And it worked out pretty well for about 10 years. Then Napoleon, who had come into power, pardoned all the French people who had been against the revolution, because Napoleon was not a revolutionary, he was the emperor. So the majority of people from French Asylum went home to France. During the 10 years, there were over 250 people who lived here at the site. There were about 50 to 55 homes, which sounds, or families, which sounds very small to us today. But Towanda, which was the county seat at the time, only had 65 families. So it really wasn't that small. They had a 2-acre town square and a thriving trading post, as it were. They had shops, they had a general store, they had 2 mills, 2 breweries, at least 2 distilleries, a couple of pubs, what we would call pubs, inns, a schoolhouse, a dance hall, a theater, church, and as I said, a general store. They had a milliner's. They had at least 2 people making clothing for women, 1 or 2 for making men, a wig maker, and we still have some of the wig boxes from the wig store in the Laporte house. So it was really quite a thriving community.
I thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. For more information, you can check our website at thefrenchasylum.com.
So, what do you think of that, JoJo?
Surviving it, and you haven't passed away.
Now you're talking about how long.
And this is one of your relatives or just somebody?
Open my eyes. Fire! Okay, so, you have more questions? Sure.
Yeah.
Smaller cannon is a prairie howitzer. It shot a canister round of 199 steel balls. It was a very effective piece. Because it was sized smaller, you could move it quickly to take advantage of any situation without loading it to the horses, and became invaluable on the battlefield. It shot almost entirely canister at short range. This larger gun is a 3-inch ordnance rifle. That's the 3 inches designates the diameter of the bore. It was rifled. That's how come we're calling it a rifle. The barrel was rifled. It had a pendulum Hawes sight that was brought forward and placed on the sight holder. Each time you'd take a trajectory reading and then you would remove it, so it wasn't broken from the jar of the explosion or would hit anybody. And this gun could shoot 1.25 miles, 1.5 miles, and hit an 18-inch target. It could shoot various rounds of solid projectile, of solid balls, of shell, exploding shell, and canister percussion that exploded when an anvil when it hit the ground. It's one of the most dependable, accurate guns in use in the Civil War. Still competes for that title today.
Front.
Front needs turn. Voice. When he says front, we're going to turn.
Yeah, one of my ancestors was in Virginia. Yeah, and he was a part of a prisoner exchange.
Well, I've been doing this for...
Probably, yeah.
He may be a veteran.
They had mascots.
Okay, so
There
we are
was
going
dogs and
to...
mascots, and there was
Order.
Of course, like any soldier, they found a stray or something, they picked it up, started feeding it while they started following. So,
Get that left hand now. You may be doing that.
there's an Illinois
There's three
regiment.
parts
They
to
had
it.
a pet
I
bald
say
eagle.
company.
Yeah, and it would.
Order. That's, I'm telling you what we're going to do. When I say arms, that's the command. And I give it in this fashion. Company. Palms.
The handler
Order.
was shot.
Arms.
Well, it's taken off. It flew around the battlefield, and then
You should have
came
grabbed
back
the
and landed
above
on
band,
somebody else
not
that it
below,
liked.
because there's going to be a strap
And
there.
they actually
Okay,
carried
so you
it.
go above the band.
Of
So,
course, they
shoulder,
had,
arms.
the handler, but they also
Boom.
had
Order,
a
arms.
pole that
Right, in fact, you messed it up. We'll try it again.
Shoulder,
Shoulder,
and then
arms.
when, the eagle wanted to hire,
Okay, now
it would
remember,
go up there
grab
and
the
land.
band with your left hand. The band is the hand. Band, hand. Left hand goes to the band. That band. Great. Then your next hand goes up and that goes down. That's what I keep forgetting. I understand. This is why we're going to drill your ass until it's into your head. Okay? You think I'm being funny?
Depending on what one it is, we've gone from
Order, arms. Shoulder, arms. Order, arms.
1 or 2 hours.
Speed it up. Shoulder, arms. Order, arms.
Gettysburg,
Shoulder, arms. What are you, a turnip walking driver? You can't go any faster than that?
but most of the
Order,
time,
arms.
similar to this, or New York City.
Shoulder, arms. You're leaning over.
Engineers better than I've seen.
Let's go boom.
Like an explosion is happening.
Done ready, sir? I prepare! Fire! This fire! No, primer came out. Jerk.
Watch here in a second.
Fire! Secure the beast! Step right this way!
Tell me when.
Now, we're still worried. Hey, now we'll hook up a friction primer that was invented before the war. This is a primer. Okay, so prepare. Over now. Fire! Reload!
Ew. So loud.
Okay, so we just protect our ears by opening the mouth. Please prepare! Fire!
Aside from my military duties, I'm also the historian and author Brian Cater, the author of A Strong Brotherhood in Blood and its particular sequel, A Strong Conflict in the Trenches of Darkness. I am working on the book 3 in this extensive series, hoping to have that out for a December 2023 release, with book 4 scheduled. A very unique, and hopefully book 3 out in December 23, and ideally book 4 in 2024. The work is hopefully a very unique work with a couple of never before done elements. I do so hope in December of 23 and book 4 in 2024. The entire series is a novel and unique piece of work that I do hope which will have a counter perspective element in books in the series, and with all the historical integrity and accuracy that is mainstream through all of the entire series. Again, hoping that book 3 will be out by December of 23, book 4 out in 2024, with all of the following books in this highly integral historical series coming soon after. Well, again, this is another historian Brian Cater and just a couple minute myth. On July 3rd, 1863, the General Robert E. Lee of the Army of Northern Virginia will make the final preparations for his now famous July 3rd attack, i.e. Longstreet's assault, or more famously, Pickett's charge. One of the myths involved in the artillery in this action, just one 2-minute section, is that commanders in the Federal Army upon Cemetery Ridge brilliantly lured Robert E. Lee and the time on which these gentlemen would set off by deliberately holding artillery fire back, luring this assault up to Cemetery Ridge and fooling the Confederates in some way, shape, or form. I do find this to be a complete myth. I don't believe there was any federal manipulation in this part or in this way. And here is at least just a tidbit of the criteria which leads me to believe that. One thing that proves a big conflict within the Union lines leading up to and during this assault is that usually 2nd Corps Commander Winfield S. Hancock has an actual wing command in this situation. He has the entire command of the one wing of this federal position. In contrast to that, Chief of Artillery is General Hunt. Hunt is perhaps, I think, arguably the best and most brilliant artillerist of his age. He will actually be the instructor to bring on who I would probably bring up as my number 2, number 3, number 4 choices for the most brilliant artillerist tutored under General Hunt. General Hunt today is Chief of Command, he is Chief of Artillery for the Army of the Potomac. And during this, he will take his duties very seriously, that he is in charge of the artillery and how to best utilize that, as well as the Federal Reserve Artillery. When the Confederate bombardment begins to fire, and we go on through this perhaps an hour-long bombardment, and it leads to the infantry assault. Winfield S. Hancock, with authority, will ride up and down these lines, saying for the artillery to keep firing, keep firing. I want all of these guns burping their ammunition as fast and as hot as they can. And envision this as General Hancock, the wing commander, goes galloping down the line. Upcoming from this direction is General Hunt, with the authority and the position of Chief of all artillery. He will come up and tell these gunners, cease your fire, stop this firing now, and hold your fire until orders. I don't want to waste ammunition. I want to wait for this massive, grand infantry assault to come close to my guns when I open them all up at the same time and do the most effective and devastating damage at that point. General Hunt will go galloping down the lines. Who shall we see next? It's General Hancock coming up the line. Why aren't these guns firing? I told you I want all of these guns firing. It may not even do a lot of damage, but it's good for the men. The men are nervous. The waiting is the worst part. And with shells coming in, this outgoing Federal artillery fire will steel the men and give them confidence. Hancock will ride down the hill. And who shall we see? We shall see General Hunt riding up. Cease fire. I believe that I have made the point that this will continue on throughout the assault and will actually lead to lulls in this situation. Another thing, if we have the ability to look around, we have artillery limbers over here where ammunition would be coming from. When a gun actually expires its limber ammunition, that gun will pull out. It will give the men a rest. It will let the gun cool, and it will allow them to refill these limbers from caissons and replenish. While a gun, this is regular artillery protocol for this gun to fall out of the section or the entire battery to do this, or as a battery at a time, excuse me. And when these guns move out and that lull is created, these are the signals that the Confederates across on Seminary Ridge and coming up are actually feeding by. No deliberate holding readied guns or holding ammunition back in an attempt to lure. This assault is so vast that any such attempt would not be identified, would not be understood. The true cause for what Confederates were able to see and have a feeling that they were knocking out some guns was the combination of this command and control issue going on, as well as heated over out of ammunition guns pulling out of the line being mistaken for retreating guns, which were very quickly refilled under normal artillery protocol. Thank you.
Are you the cannon fodder?
I'm the cannon mutter, not the fodder.
Prepare! Fire!
Ready for the powder here? Okay, I'm trying to get the tents in here.
Yeah.
Let me get this.
All right, now just keep your mouth open.
Hang on. Whoop.
Let us know when you're ready.
This is an old-fashioned camera. I gotta focus and all that stuff.
Ready?
All right.
Prepare! Fire! Wow, I'm not liking any of that.
That was a woofie.
That it makes great pictures.
It rained last night.
Yeah, because a lot of them here on the train. That's pretty old. There's a number there. He ground everything off.
They need a lot of pennies.
That's sad.
That's all they made.
Okay, on the very end is a solid shot for the cannon. These are solid round balls. The big gun that they have, this would be grape shot. This is to the bore diameter of the howitzer that I have. And we have conical, exploding shell, grape shot, ball and chain, or chain shot, excuse me, and then canister. These are 3 different sights that we use to sight the piece. This one will lay over the back of the gun, and these 2 go into the vent. This one is a veneer, and this is just a peep sight. Candles. These are what they call storm lantern. The holes are punched from the inside out to keep the wind from putting the cannon out, or the candle out. This is just a regular candle lantern. These are what they call courting candles, and they date back to the 1800s, or 1700s, excuse me. Depending on how well you were liked was how high the candle would be. Once it was burned down to the top, the gentleman would leave. This is just a candle that we use in the tent. Have a wooden canteen. And we also have the metal canteen that most everybody sees. Frying pan to fry your supper up. Cook your coffee beans down, because your beans would be green and you'd have to roast your beans. So you do that over the fire. This is hardtack. This is what we eat all the time. Playing cards, because you're not always in a battle, you're in the rear. Phillips naphtha soap to scrub your hide off of you. Toothbrush and tooth powder. This is a plug of tobacco that was used to either chew or smoke. Your tin cup for drinking. This here is upside down because it's an original tin type and the sun will fade it, so we keep it upside down. Everybody had a boiler to cook their meal or coffee in. This is a Navy 36. It's a Colt. It's a short barrel. This is the police model. This is a Navy 36. It's also a Colt. This is a Colt 44. And this is a Remington 1858 44. These are all our original pieces. They're 31 caliber. This is what they call a muff gun. The ladies would put it in their muffs, hand warmers. This is just a double barrel, and this is a 50 caliber. We think this may have been a dueling pistol. This is 100 plus. This Bowie knife. This was made, is blacksmith made. All cavalrymen. We're a New York 7th Cavalry. Carries a saber. Sabers are bent, swords are straight. This is what they call an artilleryman's sword. And this is basically all you did was laid under the gun and stuck it out through the wheels and take the legs off the horses if you were getting overrun. This gun is what they call a Zulu gun. On the end of the table we have the gun that this was made from, French. This is a Sharps carbine. This was a breech loader. You loaded it through the back with a paper cartridge. When you pull the handle back, it would cut the back of the paper, and you prime it, and you're ready to shoot. This is also a Sharps rifle, but this one has got a longer barrel on it and a double set trigger. This was set up for sniping. This gun here will shoot 1,000 plus yards, and that's shooting regular black powder. The rifle next to it is a Quaker gun. On the lock, it's got 1863. It's an original. The barrel is wooden. This is what they'd keep in the house. The Quakers would keep in the house because they don't like violence. And this is what, just as a deterrent. Now I'll turn you over to Gary.
Good boy.
Here.
Oh, I get a microphone.
You betcha.
Okay. So all this stuff I've been collecting since I was a kid. Every soldier carried a tin cup for water, coffee, or whatever, soup. These are cast iron balls, grape shot, canister shot for a bigger gun than what we have here. And these are one of the primers they use. They put down the flash hole and yank on that, pull it out. And some of this stuff was found on a battlefield, and I don't know where. But this is an officer's scabbard from before the Civil War. This was leather. There's a flintlock that was in a fire. You can see where the pan melted and ran down the inside. Here's brass. These were also picked up off a battlefield.
So they're all original then?
Pardon? Yeah. This is the base of a parrot shell. What would happen, they'd load these. These were cast iron, about that long, full of an explosive charge. And this cup is soft iron. So as they loaded it, it kind of worked like a mini ball. This would expand into the rifling and propel the shell out, and when it blew up, the base is what was left because it was so heavy. In fact, these two pieces of cast iron are probably from one of these. These were picked up at Gettysburg. This stuff was picked up at Fredericksburg. There's mini balls in there that have been shot. These have, but if they're in nice shape like this one, they're what they call drops. They get in a hurry, load the rifle, and drop it on the ground. Grab another one. There's some more. That's a Spencer cartridge. And there's a sample of different bullets that were used during the Civil War. That's a souvenir from Gettysburg. And a typical canteen. And don't ask me to play it. There you go. Okay, over here we got different kinds of Confederate money, paper money. The coins are all U.S. I'm not lucky enough to own a Confederate coin. They're quite scarce. Pocket watch made in the 1850s. That is almost runnable. Got a little bit more work to do on it. This is a combination purse. Got 9 buttons on it. Only 3 of them open it. Now, before I burn up any more of your film, I'll figure it out. Up, over, up. There we go. Yeah, that's leather. And why they went to put an extravagant lock on something you could cut open with a pocket knife, I don't know, but they did. Thieves were more honest back then, I guess. We got some various postcards that they made. Here's a fire starting kit, tinder, and a piece of iron, heat treated iron, and a piece of flint. You spark come off there, I don't know. And you get that into the tinder and blow on it, and then add twigs and so on to build a fire. When you're blowing on it, guys like me got to be careful of that. Okay, this is a typical cavalry saber. I think you saw one down there. These are there were many different firearms issued during the Civil War. The most 2 common known ones are the Springfield and the Enfield. Here and here. Both sides used the Enfield, and they were preferred by the Confederates. And if the Confederates managed to get their hands on something else that wasn't theirs, they'd use it anyway. But in the beginning, you had a very limited quantity of government-issued rifles like that. These were in state arsenals, armories, dated 1821 and 1818. And when the war broke out, the flintlock was kind of obsolete, which is what this one is. But these 3 guns are all looked like that when they were born. Oh. They wanted to convert them to percussion. The percussion was more weatherproof. Some people say they loaded faster than the flint, and I don't agree with that. In fact, I proved it. But they sawed off the pan here, removed these pieces, changed the hammer, sawed off the pan. Then they took the breech plug out, and the seam is right here, and there's threads up into here. Oh. They took that out and made it. They had a tool that it was a worm screw and a ratchet or type thing, and they went inside and formed this from the inside. This is soft iron. It's very formable even without being heated up, and it won't crack. So they did that, and then they put the hole in for the cone. So they, instead of, hey, what are we going to do with 800,000 flintlocks? They converted them, so you wouldn't have to pay to have new ones built. That was the most common conversion. This is another one they made 20,000 of these. This is a self-priming unit. And all of our guns up until 1855 were 69 caliber, which these are. And in 1855, they come up with a rifle that had this mechanism on this rifle. And they decided that the caps were a pain in the neck. They would get wet and wad up in there. And so they decided to scrap that whole idea. So then in the 1855, they dropped that mechanism, and it became the model 1861. So the kid's toy cat pistol we have today is not a new idea. Goes back to 1855. Of course, also the shortage of arms led people to import stuff. This is French. That's Prussian, which is a German state. And these weren't too popular because these were bigger. They were 71 and 72 caliber, so our ammunition didn't work very good in them. And they didn't have any way to readily make a whole lot of proper sized balls for them. But properly loaded with the right stuff, oh yeah, they did what they were supposed to. And then of course you saw the Sharp's carbine down at the other end. And this is the paper cartridge that was issued with a lot of these guns, clear back to the Revolutionary War, paper cartridge. You bite off the end, pour the powder in the barrel, put the bullet in and ram it down. In the flintlock, today they teach you to load it. It's fired, prison's forward. So you take your powder charge and put in there, your ball, ram it, bring it back up, prime it. Now it's ready to fire. But what the old timers did, this is the position it's in after they fired it. So they bring it back to half cock, primed it, closed that, finished loading it. Now the next time they bring it up, it's ready to fire. Actually, it's quicker than trying to load a percussion. So, yeah, we move down here. These are what they call a tompion. They get marching in the snow and the rain, and they put these in there, and that kept
Never heard of them.
all the water out of the barrel. And the British had their own version of it with a brass knob on it.
Nice.
And various revolvers. Before the revolver, cavalry and officers were issued these single-shot pistols. Sometimes the cavalry guy would have as many as 4 of these stuck in his belt or somewhere on the saddle on the horse. That's 54 caliber, and that's from about 1852, I think.
And it's an original too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Then along came the Colt, the 1851 Navy. And actually the Navy, they called this a Navy model, but the Navy saw very few of them. Navy ones that have the Navy mark on them are quite valuable, quite rare. Then the Army had the 44 caliber 1860 Colt. Also had the 1858 Remington. It's kind of confusing. These are originals. They call this a 1858, but actually the 1858 comes from the Beals patent on the original gun. These are older, but they're model 1863s. They had a little different sight on them.
Is there rifling in them or no?
Yeah, yeah. Not bad for their age. I haven't shot any of these yet. Then on the Confederate side, and I can't remember the name of that gun, but the Confederates made a few thousand of these, and very few of the Spiller and Burr. These are the most famous ones. These are kind of designed after the old Colt, and these are designed after the 58 Remington. They got the stop strap, they're a little stronger. And ammunition for all these was generally shipped in boxes like that, marked with what caliber they were and what year they were. And I guess that's about it for this end of the table, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.